Beautiful, Deluded. I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in, folks. And again, as you can see by the title, apparently Edu has spoken in relation to Arsenal's transfer practices. Mikel Arteta is in talks to sign a new deal. Marcus Rashford rumours won't go away. There's been some clarity or some effort to provide clarity on Thomas Partey's future by Charles Watson, a number of journalists. So there's a lot for us to go over. Again, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't, get the creative juices flowing, and any comments, leave them in the comment section. And appreciative of you lot tuning in, because we're finally getting some motion. We're flirting. I think we need around 100 odd. We're flirting with 60,000. So let's get back to work. Now, if I share my screen with you lot, Edu explains Arsenal transfer approach and makes cryptic Manchester City comment. Now, Edu has given an interview, I think, to a Brazilian publication. I tried to get the whole bulk of it for you guys. As you know, that's what I do, but it is behind a paywall. Obviously, you can go around paywalls. The way I tried to go around it, it wasn't banging. So we have to deal with the fallout kind of articles, people. Arsenal sporting director Edu says the club have been working on their summer transfer plan since January, while he also made a pointed comment about champions Manchester City. Now, I don't believe what Edu has said there. I do believe that we've started since January, but I think this transfer planning for this summer started probably shortly after the summer window last year planning finished, really and truly. And I think a lot of clubs have done such, really and truly. Like, again, I've never been involved in a transfer, but it's not like FIFA. You don't just bid. Sometimes it is, but you don't just bid for a player they sign. There's a lot of practices. There's a lot of courting, in a sense of, you know, directors, agents. They're going to houses. They're having dinners. They're doing all of these kind of things in the back burners before, obviously, we see people holding shirts, essentially. And I know that's kind of a fact, because, you know, you look at Declan Rice, you look at Zinchenko, listen to the sound bites of when them two, for example, signed for Arsenal. You hear things like Arteta went to my house. In some occasions, for some players, you hear certain managers been speaking to players for years. Look at Mesut Ozil. We tried to sign him when he was 17, 18 by Wenger. He kept in contact and obviously struck when the time was right. But moving away from that, as we know, I don't want to remind you how the season ended. We all know how it ended. Yes, we improved on last season, but unfortunately, you know, that's not going to be on Arsenal's honours list. So we have to go again in a few months. Apparently, Edu is already plotting a way to close the gap even further with Man City, and has revealed how meticulous Arsenal are in their recruitment process, with plans formulated as far back as January. Speaking to Brazilian publication Estadio, forgive me for mispronunciations, folks. Don't forget to hit the like button. You can't sign players for the sake of signing. Amen. It has to be a process that takes weeks and weeks. They're on my desk. I have reports with more than 180 pages on the player. Fair enough. And that makes sense, really, especially where you look at it like, yes, in this day and age where money is flashed with football is flashed with cash, but you're making millions or multi-million pound investments. And again, I'm not a transfer man, but let's say somebody's bought for 30 million and they're on 100 grand a week, obviously, and they've signed a 5-year deal. Now, if you do the maths, which I can't do, I barely got to see, but if you do the maths over that 5-year period, what is the true cost of a transfer? You see why you have to do that. I mean, on one player, that's great. Maybe we needed 180 pages on the likes of Tavares, Lokonga, these kind of players there, really and truly. Maybe even needed it 180 on Kai Havertz. I'm sure Mikel Arteta probably had 1,000, but I don't know if Kai Havertz universally convinced Arsenal at the point of Arteta saying, obviously, let's sign him. Fortunately, it's worked out for Kai. This isn't anything new, in my opinion, but it's really detailed stuff. Physical, technical, mental profile. You have Premier League experience. If you'll be able to adapt, it has everything. We analyze our weaknesses, where we can improve, where we can invest, and we go in search of that new name. What I'm going to do now, we've been discussing since January. It's not my decision or Mikel's alone. It belongs to the whole group. Arsenal on frequent basis spoken on the collaborative pieces. We know once again Manchester City beat us to the Premier League title. There's been rumours that Pep might leave at the end of next season. I hope so. While this 115 charges is looming over their heads. For me, I think in the next, who am I? I'm just on YouTube with you lot, but I've never got the feeling Pep Guardiola wants to leave Manchester City with them kind of charges over his head. So for me, whether they're found guilty, which I don't think they will, I'm not qualified to talk on that. I'm not really here for that. That's a whole nother conversation in itself, really and truly, for me anyways, people. But I just think once that there's a resolution over that, which I believe is in the next, let's say this time next year, so call it a year, folks, I think that's when they will leave, because, you know, he's got 100 points, he's revolutionized the modern day. Pep's done a lot of great things for Manchester City and the whole footballing world and the Premier League. As a selfish Arsenal fan, obviously to a degree I don't care, but that could be diminished, but that will probably, it's like Lance Armstrong. When you find out he's a drug cheat, allegedly, it doesn't really matter what you did or didn't do, really. It's kind of a black stain on your name. It's kind of a tarnish. It's a strange feeling, very strange, because we ended the season with a feeling that we did everything well. 98%. In my opinion, from the recruitment and objectives to renewals, Mikel did a great job and achieved his goals, which we did everything we could, but it wasn't enough. I agree with the first sentence, but sometimes your best isn't enough, so we just have to go again. There's frustration, but there's also a positive feeling that the process was done well, the work was excellent. He then said there are things that unfortunately I cannot say what I feel on Manchester City, but all credit in the world to Pep for the coaching and work he's been doing since he started his career. Fair enough. Moving away from that, we've gone over Edu's comments. Mikel Arteta, as imagined, the work is unfinished at Arsenal. He's doing great things. He's a manager that's held in high regard. You know, a couple of other clubs apparently are using Arsenal and Mikel Arteta as a guide point for backing a manager, finding a manager, and all of these kind of things in the modern day. So it's no surprise that we need Mikel Arteta to sign a new deal. We finally got clarity and stability across more or less the whole of the team, really and truly, which hasn't always been the case. As we saw with Edu, people are signing new deals. We're doing a lot of good things. The manager has to sign a new deal. Arsenal and manager Mikel Arteta are in advanced talks over a new long-term contract at the club, sources have told Football Insider. It's believed the 42-year-old is in ongoing talks with the Gunners, with negotiations progressing nicely. Both parties are happy and want to continue together in a bid to bring the Premier League title back to Arsenal. Club chiefs are desperate to tie Mikel Arteta down to a new long-term contract to ward off background interest from elite European sides. As we know, his contract is technically for the next campaign, so it's only a year. It will end in 2024-25. So yeah, we're in advanced deals. I think there's a lot of great things Mikel Arteta has done. I think the conversation now is, can you bring us a league title? And obviously internally, can we maximize everything we're doing? I know not everyone feels the same way. I'm not an Arteta sexual in that I don't just back you blindlessly. I think there's more reasons to keep you than to get rid until I'm presented with other issues. So I think it makes sense, you know, to talk with the incoming players, the players that have committed their future. It makes sense for the man to sign a new contract for me. Let me know your thoughts on Mikel Arteta. On Thomas Partey, apparently Charles Watts has said his preference is to stay at Arsenal this summer, despite transfer speculation linking him with a move away. Unlike several other key players in the Arsenal squad, there have been no talks about a contract extension with Partey over the past 12 months, and there's a belief that the club will look to move on from him this summer, which makes sense. On ability alone, quality player. But the best ability you can have is being available, in which Tomiyasu signed a new deal, and he's someone probably just under Partey that picks up a lot of injuries. And I also think that's reflected in when Tomiyasu signed a new contract, and I don't think it was the length of time a lot of us fans were expecting. It depends with Thomas. If he's happy to stay and he believes that he can earn a new deal, he wants to stay with the club with what they're doing. He's happy in London. Obviously, he's got a kid. He's just got engaged as well. Run down his deal because you probably, unless he goes Saudi tomorrow, you're not probably going to get the weekly wages you're getting at Arsenal. And obviously, running down your contract could make you more of an attractive proposition to potential clubs. You know, in January, from the summer, well, from this point really until January, from January, you can agree a move for the next season to go with what obviously we're going to kick off in August. So it is what it is, and you know, I don't think Arsenal are going to get a decent payday for Partey. I could be wrong. You never know. The Saudis got money. It could be something. I don't really want Partey to leave, but I want him to leave in the sense of it would force us, for me, to sign that blockbuster central midfielder to partner Declan Rice and complete that trio of Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, and whoever that is. We did see Partey come into form towards the end of the season. We did get to see the partnership we've been waiting to see since August, people, Partey and Declan Rice. So we'll have to see. But I think it's quite telling that, you know, you look at his contract, for whatever reason, radio silence with 12 months left on his deal. That would probably be a bigger thing if we never had Declan Rice and we weren't on the trajectory we're on. Zinchenko, for whatever you say about the player, 2 years left on his contract, people. And it seems like there's no kind of enthusiasm to get a new one there. The same said with Smith Rowe. So maybe there's unanswered questions, or maybe the fact that there has not been a new deal says everything. Let me know your thoughts on such, people. So yeah, man, Charles Watts has said, you know, his preference is going into the summer is to stay at Arsenal. Things can change. The club will listen to offers on the midfielder, people. Another Shakhtar, the next player, has been linked with both Arsenal and Tottenham. There's some rumors that say it will go all the way from 70 to 100 million euros. And obviously Sudakov will probably play for Ukraine at the Euros. I say probably because I don't actually know if he's in the squad, but I'd imagine he is. The 21-year-old's been linked with Benfica, Juventus, Napoli, Arsenal as far back back as January, etc., etc. And I'm sure he's a good player, but I wonder if there's any bad blood because of the whole Mudryk saga with Arsenal. On one hand, you have to let bygones be bygones, and I think what Shakhtar have shown is they're hustlers. You know, they're really good hustlers, and you know, they, to be fair, they know the Prem's got money. 21-year-old player being potential and being a star of tomorrow is all the range in today's day and age. So it could maybe make sense, really. So we're gonna have to watch the 21-year-old's developments highly, people. And obviously, not just him, but a number of players that are linked with clubs. If they don't move prior to the Euros and they have good European competitions, then obviously their price could fluctuate higher, or if it's a bit of a shaky one, could go lower. So it's one to watch. Diamande's been relinked with Arsenal. Apparently, we've been handed a boost in our pursuit of him, people, because Sporting Lisbon... Why isn't this pausing? Apologies. Sporting Lisbon have allegedly lowered their asking price. Back to his days in Denmark, we've been tracking him, people. He's got an 80 million release clause. I can't lie, it doesn't say what that actually would be. It's more said that Sporting will have to sell in the market to maintain the balance on their account. So that could add fuel to the fire of Diamande potentially leaving. Inacio, the left-sided centre-back, linked with Liverpool. Obviously, Gyökeres has been linked with Arsenal as well as others, people. And this has said we could revive our interest in him, people. I can't imagine we sign Diamande and Hato. I think Diamande is more for the immediate right now, but I'd rather Hato. I mean, Diamande is a quality player, people, as from what I could see of him, and he would be another... It's almost like having your cake and eat. If you've got Saliba, you've got Gabriel, you've got Benjamin White, you've got Timber to come back, Tomiyasu in the squad. You know, I know many people are not the biggest of fans of Zinchenko, but the option of Zini on paper right now, for this example, and Kirill, we've got some very decent options, and such is the depth now. Or if we do that, I'm probably missing someone else out. Marcus Rashford is probably, in the last 48 hours, there's been a lot of aggressive rumours linking him to Arsenal, and all the ITKs have been saying such. I'm not saying they do or don't know what they're talking about, but yeah, people. Marcus Rashford is Manchester United through and through. It would take a huge moment for him to leave the club. There are whispers about a move to Arsenal. A well-respected Arsenal ITK account suggested there have been discussions between Rashford's camp and Mikel Arteta. I haven't been able to solidify that information, but it would be quite a big thing to make up, and I don't believe anyone would do that. It's too big a rumor. To be fair with you, I'm not saying anyone has, but I think they would, because you get engagement. Can Rashford actually join Arsenal? I think there's scope there to upgrade on the left, but is Rashford elite anymore? And he's on 350k a week. He'll be labeled up to 80. Can I see Arsenal meeting all of that criteria? I think it's unlikely, but I thought I'd put that on the radar today. So let me know your thoughts on potentially signing Marcus Rashford. At the time of making this video, I've actually made an edited piece on Destiny Due, so make sure your notification bells are on. And one love to you lot that have probably seen all the videos I've been doing at this point. He's been linked with everyone. He's linked every day. The last week or so, he's been aggressively linked with our football club. Sources have told Court of Side that Arsenal, Leverkusen and Napoli are now the three teams set up to step up their interest and ask Rennes about attacking midfielder Doué in the next few days as they seek to gather information on a potential deal. Lokonga, I must admit, it's getting a bit boring with Lokonga. He keeps talking in interviews and saying the same thing, that he don't want to leave Arsenal, it's best that I go. Fair enough, but it is what it is. My time at Arsenal is slowly coming to an end. I think so. I had a discussion with the club, and what was said is that the best solution for me was to leave. So fair enough, and it probably is really and truly so. The loan spot at Luton hasn't really convinced. Apparently Ramsdale is on the list of targets for Newcastle, but at present the asking price of 30 million is too high. Now 30 million for Ramsdale is it. Come on now, we should be getting a lot more than that. We should be getting we should be getting 30 million. You know, he's mid-20s. He was our number one. He was spoken about being a number one for England. Obviously, Pickford has run away with that. And the only reason he looks like damaged goods is because David Raya's come into the football club. PFA nominations and all those things there. You know, if we were trying to buy Ramsdale from Newcastle, you know what they would ask for. But at the same time, they do have their own PSR complaints to be dealing with. Just because you've got the money, I don't know what their budget is. Their budget might not stretch as far as 30 million for Ramsdale because they want to do other things. But Ramsdale is still continuously linked with clubs. On the topic of goalkeepers, people, Justin Breedlove of Feyenoord, who has been linked with replacing Ramsdale at Arsenal, has opened the door to a move to Arsenal, describing the Gunners as a nice club and underlining his ambition to play at the highest level. He said on Liverpool rumours as well, there are two very nice clubs. Of course, it's always nice to be mentioned at big clubs. What I can say is I'm ambitious. As long as I play for Feyenoord, I'll give everything for that. And first, I just want to focus on the Dutch team. Then he said, people, would I stay at Feyenoord? You never know, do you? That's football. You don't know that. I'm ambitious. I've always said that. If the opportunity presents itself and a good club comes from abroad, I'm open to it. I've always said, as long as I'm on the contract with Feyenoord, that is never a punishment, and I'll give everything as long as I play there. Fair enough, big him up, people. So we'll have to see, really and truly. Now, Mika Beref, who's done quite well initially at Motherwell and did extremely well over in Austria with Stuttgart, is still being linked with Sheffield Wednesday as much as other clubs. Unfortunately, the London-born Danish international, as it says there, with us talking about buying a striker on paper, Eddie Nketiah, Gabriel Jesus, Trossard, the option of Martinelli on paper is there to play up front. It's probably just not going to happen here. And I just think with him, Charlie Patino, to go with maybe Ramsdale and these kind of players, Nelson and Smith Rowe and the rest of it, these are players that could bring some money into the club to kind of offset in their own way some of the spending. But it's good. If you ain't going to make it here, and we bought you from Fulham a couple of years ago, we make a profit. It is what it is, people. And the Stuttgart president from January as well as now has kept saying we want him on a permanent basis, really and truly. It's understood that Wednesday had at one stage had confidence they would claim the January signing of Beref. Obviously had a successful spell over in Austria in Stuttgart. He won the Austrian Cup. He's obviously played and scored in the Conference League. That's what loans are presented for an early 20-year-old, which you're not going to get at Arsenal, people. Long story short, it says there's still a number of interest from clubs abroad as well as the Championship to obviously sign the young talented forward. Arsenal are considering new options to sign Onana from Everton this summer. Arsenal were interested in signing him in January, but outgoing transfers presented difficulties that presented the move. Wouldn't be my first choice, but definitely wouldn't be against it, and I think he could add something to the squad. Joshua Kimmich is prioritizing a transfer to the Premier League in the summer transfer window. He's been linked with us, been linked with City, been linked with more or less everyone. Probably fuel to the fire up with Barcelona, with Xavi leaving and Hansi Flick going over there. Obviously, he could still stay at Bayern Munich. They haven't got a new manager. Apparently, him and Thomas Tuchel did not see eye to eye. So nothing can be ruled out. Staying at Bayern, moving to anyone in the Premier League or moving to Spain, or him just running down his deal for, he's contracted until 2025. We've been linked with Sesko again. Apparently, we are still in pole position to land Benjamin Sesko, and we're considering a £60 million bid for the Slovenian forward, people. He has scored in each of his last 6 appearances, including against Borussia Dortmund. We've seen his agent speak before. We've seen him pictured at the Emirates and at Old Trafford. I think he's got a lot. He's in his early 20s. He's 6 foot odd. He can play in a bunch of roles. He is kind of raw, but in a nice way raw, and I think he'll give us something different. I think if in the next 2 years, I'm not saying he'll be better than Haaland or whatever, but he'll be a striker on everybody's lips, if I'm honest. So would love him at the carpet. Don't know if that's going to be a thing. Lautaro Martinez has been relinked with Arsenal to potentially replace Gabriel Jesus if we sell him. I've covered this in a previous vid, so check it out. Obviously, I think our club have an admiration for him, but he's another one where anyone concerned with Inter and himself actually speak about signing a new deal. It feels like a bit like with Osman, or even more in Martinez's case, that boat has simply put just sailed, people. On Emil Smith Rowe, Romano has said there's set to be talks to decide his future, and all parties are open to all proposals, folks, in that regards. And Charles Watts has kind of correlated that word to decide his future in the next couple of days. But a lot of people have reiterated that he wants to stay at Arsenal. Nonetheless, he's been linked with Crystal Palace for 40 million, in which even a diehard Emil Smith Rowe fan like myself, 40 million to Crystal Palace, you got to really consider that, if I'm honest with you, man. But I don't really want to sell him. Kadagoglu is still linked with Arsenal. Romano has said it's still a bit too early to say if he signs for Arsenal or Aston Villa. Some of you want Rodrigo from Real Madrid. He said he wants to stay at Real Madrid as long as he's alive. I covered this in another video, but reports are saying that we're set to trigger Nico Williams' release clause. So we'll have to see how that develops. I know a lot of people, including myself, wouldn't be against it. Arsenal are interested in young Archie Gray from Leeds. The 18-year-old midfielder has interest from City, Man United, Liverpool, as well as Bayern Munich. I would listen, if we could sign him, loan him back to Leeds for a season or two, I think he'll play for England one day. I'm quite convinced about that, really. Joshua Zertsky has said, I choose the best for the club. I'll only do what makes sense in my heart. My mind is only in Bologna. I want to recover from injury, have some nice holidays in the United States with my childhood friends, then see what happens. So he's being quite coy on his future. Adeyemi, 1 minute he's linked with moves away. Apparently Dortmund will reject offers for the 22-year-old German, who I'm still a big fan of. Very frustrating though. Arsenal have been linked with Victor Rulg. Obviously, he's since joining Barcelona. in January. Hasn't really got game time, so we'll have to watch that. Wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't expect him to immediately impact and improve Arsenal, but in terms of the project we're doing, I'm definitely not against it. Once again, people, Lokonga has said his days at Arsenal are numbered. So yeah, I don't know why I've got so many Lokonga sort of things here, but it is what it is. Arsenal and AC Milan are interested in Fofana, who could leave AS Monaco this summer, in which the president of Monaco's confirmed that he's got a year left on his deal, apparently available for 20 million euros. For me, get it done if it could be, man. Romano has said Fabio Vieira is one of the players who could potentially leave Arsenal. It's also been reported that Fabio Vieira could leave Arsenal after a lack of playing time. My understanding, however, is that it depends on the proposals. I mean, you couldn't even rule out a loan, if I'm honest, but I'd persist with him for one more year. If we're still having these same convos, then as much as I like him, probably need to go. So far, it's quiet, but for players like Vieira, in brackets, not all of them, there's a chance to leave in case of a good proposal coming in. We just have to be patient on that one. Fair enough, man, if I'm completely honest. Lastly, again, this article links Pedro Neto with Liverpool, but it says there's a 60 million bounty on his head. Can you see Arsenal spending 60 million on Pedro Neto? You could say yes, because there's been an intense kind of degree of interest in the individual. You could probably say no because of the injuries. We probably don't see it as value for money. If it was just on ability and quality, 60 million is nothing for him, especially in this day and age. So we'll have to see. With that being said, let me know your thoughts on Lokonga, lol, Smith Rowe, Partey, potentially Mikel Arteta signing new deal, Edu's comments, and any other talking points we've made. Do make sure you check out the other videos. I'm sure across the screen as I've been talking, you've seen hyperlinks. So go and check that out. Don't forget to leave a comment after, like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.